John Nevel.
Hey, what's up?
This is Jonathan Masters. How you doing?
Good. How you doing today?
Better actually. Since I've been in Pueblo, I haven't felt safe, and I've had cyanitis, and so I think cyanitis combined with the stress of not feeling safe has kept me sick for way longer than what I should be. So I don't have the same stress anymore, but I still have a little bit of cyanitis. So. Yeah, you told me, not everybody always, how are you? We're just supposed to say fine, but I answer the question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha.
So, this is all on the record, so I hope that's cool, and I just want to kind of find out who you are, what your background, what your platform planks are.
Sure, yeah, not a problem.
Cool. Okay, so I just have general. Let's see. Let's go through here. You're what do you weigh? What, about 250?
What do I weigh? No, I weigh about 165 now.
Wow,
Yeah.
you look pretty fit, and you're doing all these national Olympics and competitions. And what is it that you do? You were going to that.
It's through U.S. track and field, but it's I do the Masters track and field, which is everyone over the age of 35.
And you do javelin throw, and there's like 7 things that you're going to compete for in Spokane, you said?
Yeah, Spokane, Washington is going to hold the national championships, the national outdoor championships, July 24th through the 26th. And I'll be doing the shot put, the weight throw, the javelin throw, the discus, the hammer throw, the triple jump, and the 3,000 meter steeplechase.
Nice. You think you'll win?
I don't know. I'm just going to do the best I can. I mean, I've been training for a long time. There's a couple of them that I've never even done, at a championship, but I'm just going to give it my all and see what happens. I think that, especially in track and field, go after things you've never done before, and that's what makes you a better person.
Then, yeah, no, I got you. That's, I think it's really cool because I guess I want a physically fit politician for anything, whether it's water board or president. It says you're a security professional at Bulldog Protective Solutions. You studied.
Yeah, I work part time over there. Yeah, I work there maybe about 2-3 days a week, and it's they're contracted out of Colorado Springs, and it's actually working at the training center for the chemical depot. So
nice. I hear rave reviews that said that you guys were doing a good job. That's I read that somewhere randomly. So, they also studied Master of Science in Criminal Justice at Everest University, and then studied PhD in Public Safety at Capella University.
Yeah, when I got out the Army, first of all, I joined the Army because I was raised in a really bad neighborhood. I think we had about 6 rival gangs in the same neighborhood. I was raised in the projects with a single mother, and I just wanted to get out that neighborhood as fast as I could, and because I could have just fell. I mean, any longer, and I probably would have fell into the gangs and everything going on. But I decided, I just want to get my GED, get the hell out of there. So I left there and joined the military. And when I got out of the military, I didn't even know that they paid for your college to a certain extent. So when I got the GI Bill, I said, I've always been interested in criminal justice, so I thought I might as well just go for that. I got my master's in criminal justice from Everest. I wanted to keep going because I still had some money left over, and I did my PhD at Capella University, got about 72 credits, about 3 classes shy from my PhD in public safety, and unfortunately we had a death in the family, and I had to take some time off from school, and then during that whole time after that, our kids started college, so I had to turn my focus to them, and all the money went to them, so.
Your kid, you're 35 years old, so how you got a kid in college?
Yeah.
Wow. You started
young.
We
got one that goes to the University of Wyoming in Larrabee.
Yeah.
She's going for zoology, and then another one's going here at TPC for RN. So.
That's an amazing kind of a rags to riches story. That's one great thing about the military is that they can kind of pull people out of the muck. You said you got your GED, you grew up in the hood, the ghetto, and then you're able to not only get a master, have a stellar, I guess, Army, or what branch did you go to?
Army. Yeah, I was going to join the Marines, but at the time, they were doing some kind of tattoo waiver where you had to wait 3 months per tattoo that you had on your body, and I had like 4 at that time. So I didn't feel like waiting.
Yeah.
So I gave the Army a shot, and I decided to join right after September 11th. So right when the Twin Towers fell, I think it was literally maybe not even a week after that, I called the recruiter. He was at my house ready to take me to Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time to take the test and everything. So everything went from there.
Yeah, how brainwashed did that make you? I remember 9/11. Let me say this first. I remember 9/11. I felt actually I wanted to sign up immediately. I felt like I didn't feel safe, so I felt like I'd be safer with a gun in my hands than without one. And but instead I went and stayed in college and got to be a peacenik, a conscientious objector. So I'm wondering how our perspectives actually would be different. I would think it'd be interesting to see what we agree on versus what we disagree on.
Yeah, another interesting thing is when I was in the Army in Iraq, I met a whole bunch of troops from around the world. We had Moldovan troops out there, Italian troops, and the Moldovan, little country by Russia. They're a very, very poor country. None of them have TVs or radios. They can't afford anything, and they have to join the military for at least 4 years when they reach the age of 18. So it's kind of a different concept, thinking about, how would we be as a society if you literally had to join, like it was a thing where you had to go. And
I would like it. I guess I still have I don't know, a fondness for it. I wish that I'm 36 now, so I'm not sure what if I could do anything. I have law school dreams. You said the GI Bill, basically that paid for your master's, and then you studied, I guess, half a PhD. It was from
right, yeah. Yeah, they basically give you a lump sum of money. You can even, while you're still, enrolled in the military, you can enroll in college, and they'll pay your financial aid free without covering without it coming out of your GI Bill. So it's a pretty cool thing.
That was cool. I feel like just reading about your sort of your resume that you're kind of an insider outsider. So how long have you been in Pueblo? You're in the military, 2003 or so. You said you're around here, so I guess maybe a military base around here. Then you came here and you've been here for about 7 years. Is that correct? Or
well, yeah, I'm a real family. I'm just real family based. I love my family more than anything, and my mom's by herself in North Carolina. She never got remarried. She's single, by herself, doing her thing, and it came to a point where she needed a little help. So I flew out there from Colorado when I got out the military in 2006 to help her out. And in a way, we really helped each other, because I ended up being a single father at one point, and she helped me through that thing. And while I was out there, and we were doing good, my brother called me up in Oklahoma, and he was like, "Hey, I need your help." Because he had some kids. He wasn't doing good with his wife at that time, so they had separated, and he just couldn't work and pay for daycare and all this stuff at the same time. So I actually flew from North Carolina to Oklahoma, and I lived with him for about a year or so and helped him get back on his feet. Then I flew back to North Carolina, helping my mom out again, and then I eventually came out here and settled down with my wife. And when I got out of the Army in 2006, of course, between 2002 and 2006, while I was in the Army, I came to Pueblo quite often because of the state fair and the festivals and the chili fest and all that good stuff. And I thought it was the best thing in the world, and
yeah.
I'm serious. When I got out the military, I've lived all over the place. I've lived in Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Michigan, and Pueblo has, some of the greatest, festivals and family-based events like anywhere.
Yeah, I haven't had the money to go to, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay. Yeah, but I just fell in love with the place. It's got a beautiful river walk. It's trying. Every time you look on TV, you're seeing something that's going on that's new and innovative, and it's trying to work itself out.
I've loved it. I've enjoyed Pueblo for a year and a half. Were you in Colorado Springs? I thought you were at a military base, and then you're saying you're visiting. So where were you at when you were visiting Pueblo earlier in the 2000s?
I lived in Fort Carson the entire time.
Okay.
Yeah. When I went to Iraq in 2003 to 2004, it was literally, I did my basic in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, my AIT, which is the Army-based training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And then Fort Carson was my first duty station, and it was literally the day I got there. They said, "Pack your bags, you're leaving for Iraq in a week." So that's how it was. I was I think, 19-year-old kid at the time that didn't know any good, and I was just going with the flow, and I went to Iraq, came back, lived at Fort Carson the rest of the time until I got out. But during that time, I obtained friends that were from Pueblo and down south, and I came out here quite often to see them, and
How long you been
out here, and went to the festivals and the fair and all that good stuff.
How long you been in Pueblo permanently with your family? Has it been the last 7 years?
Yeah, I came back out here about late 2011. Yeah, late 2011. I got married in 2012, and we've been out here ever since. Kind of like when I told you a while ago that we had the death in the family.
Yeah.
When that happened, and I couldn't pursue my PhD at that point in time, I was living in the county for a little while, and I was a detention deputy at the jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would have actually stayed at the jail, but I suffered a back injury, and the way things played out, I ended up leaving there, and we moved into the city, in the Bessemer area. So, been here ever since.
I was in the Bessemer area there for a minute. Wow. Okay. So you're in the jail. How long were you working in the jail?
About a year.
Did you?
About a year total. After my I want to say about 5 months in, I suffered a back injury. Kind of terrifying, actually. Some crap load of muscles in my back, and I played the back and forth game, going to the doctor. They, nothing would help, and I went on light duty for a little while, and something happened where, honestly, when I went to the doctor, he put down the wrong medical code on the paperwork, so I had workman's comp, calling me, saying, hey, we can't pay you. But the doctor's on the other end saying, hey, you need 2 more months to fully heal. So I did everything I possibly could, but in the long run, I had to get a lawyer. Because we had bills that we were about to lose everything, our house, our cars, everything. And, it kind of played out from there where I won a little case, and they said, here's some money, but if you accept it, you have to quit your job. It was part of the settlement. So I accepted that money at that time, and we used that money to move into the city because we just couldn't afford all the bills that were stacked up due to the injury. So
yeah, no, that's I figured that would give you actually an interesting perspective on whether or not we need to do jail. What are the jail issues? How can they be solved?
Well, when I was getting my master's degree, halfway through it, not even when I was going for my PhD, I did probably. For that 6 years in college, I did probably well over 250 papers. And a lot of what I based everything on was recidivism. That's my biggest thing is recidivism is how do you keep people out of jail?
Right.
Because right now it's just a reoccurring cycle. They get out, they go back in, they get out and go back in. But when you look at the statistics, if you were to Google it right now, you're going to see that, the amount of homeless people in Pueblo has almost, increased by about 30% in just the last 6 years. I saw the official numbers just the other day, and then you look at the statistics on how many homeless people are actually incarcerated in the Pueblo County Jail, and that's what makes you think because it makes up about 20 to 30%. When I worked at the jail, there's a lot of things that needs improving as far as like camera systems and things that are just so old. You want it better, but I think that the overcrowding thing in the jail is in a lot in part due to we don't have enough homeless programs in Pueblo. And if we were to work on these types of programs and create them, that might in turn help with the recidivism, and some of these homeless people on the streets where they have no other option but to, go, not get locked up on purpose, but just end up in the Pueblo County Jail. That's going to help with the overcrowding, and, that might just make it better for everybody.
I think it would be substantially cheaper. It's costing us about $700 a day. I heard a stat by putting people in jail. So why wouldn't we? It would be cheaper, it seems like, to be compassionate. It might be $10-$20 to fund some kind of building. I think it's actually kind of embarrassing about Pueblo. Don't even have a homeless shelter. Not even one single homeless shelter in the entire city. I don't know.
And when you read the article that came out, I think July 2nd, about, the only other one that we had kind of having to close doors, it makes you think about not only the homeless population, but all these people, all these Pueblo citizens that were putting in the time and the effort to keep that thing going.
Right.
Not getting paid, volunteering their time. When they get off work from working really hard, they go over there and they're still helping people out, and all that taken away is just crazy. It's, when you go places, I've even been annoyed sometimes because, if somebody asks you for money, if you pull up the King Supers in Pueblo, you might have somebody, hey, or anywhere, hey, can you spare some change? But the way, because we don't have any programs in Pueblo, it's happening continuously. Like every single where you go, you pull up on North Elizabeth where the old Kmart used to be, and you go to Wendy's or something else. There's a big homeless population that hangs out right there every single day. And I've been there so many times since I've been here. I've seen the same people. It's the same people begging people to the point where they're walking in these restaurants, and now it's a solicitation where at first they were helping them out, and now they're just straight up calling the police to get them out the store, and all they're doing is sitting there. It's just, I guess it depends on the person's opinion. I grew up in the projects with 2,500 families that we helped each other out because we were all going through the same situations, and I feel like you don't have to have went through those certain situations that the homeless people went through to help them out. No, anybody can invest and volunteer their time, but I'm the type of person where I've been there, I've done that. I even stayed on the streets when I was younger for a few years, a couple to a few years where I was going from house to house. I was a bad kid growing up. I was trying to learn, and I was stuck in a bad situation, and I was, there was a lot of gangs around, so I was hanging with some of the wrong people. Not necessarily saying all people in gangs are wrong or bad, because they're not. But I was just going down a path that I shouldn't have been going down, and that's another reason why I joined the military. But I have that experience where I've been there, done that. I know what it feels like to not have any food, or enough money in your pocket to do anything. When I was a single dad living in Fort Carson and for Colorado Springs for about a year, I had no help. I was going to school full-time. I was in the military. I had another part-time job, but I didn't have a car. So, I used to have to walk a mile and a half to get groceries, and I used to put the grocery bags on the side of my son's stroller to wheel him down, South Academy to get back to my apartment. So, I've always had a big heart for those types of things, and I feel that those are the types of things in Pueblo that we need to change. And as far as not even talking about the mayor and the election and all that stuff, we as a Pueblo community, we just need to get to a point where we're helping each other more, because it doesn't matter if there's 50 people running for mayor or 100 people at the very end before August 7th or August 27th, the deadline. One person can't do everything, So I feel that we need to create programs and things to get the community more involved. The citizens of Pueblo.
It's kind of crazy, actually. Whenever it comes to anybody helping anybody out, it's always the poor people who helps people out. And and I've struggled myself too. So I feel you. The fact of the matter, that you have, the pains, the stings of the working class. That makes me trust you, more than most of the candidates that's actually already in there. Don't forget about us. That's the biggest thing, is when politicians get into power, they tend to, turn their back on where they came from. But I feel like, I don't know, I've had experiences kind of like you, and it's once you've been, I don't want to say scarred, but maybe humbled. You've been humbled by it, and you kind of like, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff to being a working class.
By any means.
It's more expensive.
When I got out the Army, when I got back from Iraq, I was diagnosed with PTSD and insomnia. And I had insomnia from 2006 to about 2011. For about 5 years, I slept maybe an hour or two a night.
Damn.
So, going through that as well, and then seeing how other people treat people, it's just crazy.
Well, it's a very cold, uncaring society. Imagine if we had a shelter. Let's just put one shelter. Let's have just a million. We got $100 million in a budget. We spend $1 million, and we put the shelter on the outskirts of town. But we all know where it's at. So anytime we come across a homeless person, as a Puebloan citizen, we could say, here's where you can go. Here's the contact number. So even if we personally can't do anything about it, the culture of the whole thing would be not one of just contempt and callousness and just, get the hell out of my face. Part of the thing is that there's migrants, and so there's new people, but there's Puebloan people that have been born and raised here that are living on the streets. So it's not just a migrant problem, it's also just a nativist, a local population problem too.
Right. And another thing is that a lot of these people, not just in Pueblo, but everywhere. I came across it even in the Army. They fear what they don't understand.
Yeah.
So a lot of it has to do with, okay, there are people out there that just don't give a crap about anybody. They see homeless people, they see people in gangs, they see people, with mental health problems, and they judge them right off the bat just because they don't understand it.
Well, I think we live in a cold society, so I think people, it almost feels to me, this is just a gut feeling, but it's like people don't want to build a homeless shelter because it means we have to care. It's like they fight against that impulse that we're supposed to give a damn about one another. I think capitalism, dog eat dog, but I feel like it's just a gut instinct. I don't know why American people, it's just like, I think there's a lot of people that do give a damn, but I think a lot of people just don't give a crap at all. And I wonder...
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what that phenomenon, I wonder what actually is underlying all that. But as a person in America, I have grown to not really trust, the American people to get me out of my situation. It's on me. It's on my head. And I feel like that's in the capitalist, in our society, we get blamed whether we, succeed, whether our circumstances help us out or not. I was curious about the ghetto. What ghetto did you grow up in? What hood? In North Carolina?
It was a neighborhood called Bucktown, in Hill of Smoke. It was in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And if you were to Google Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and type in most dangerous small cities in America, when I was growing up in early '90s, mid '90s, that was known as the #1 most dangerous small city in America.
Right.
For about 5 years in a row.
How do you feel? Yeah. No, I was going to talk about where you're at now, if you feel safe now.
In Rocky Mount?
And you said in the Bessemer area, but finish what you were saying about your hometown.
No, in Rocky Mount, it's just in the environment right now. There's shootings in certain places in Rocky Mount.
Yeah.
And that's where police officers are known to not go there.
Yeah.
Or they respond very slowly there because they know that, I guess they have a mentality that, let them take care of themselves.
But that's the angels versus the criminals. What if there's some good people still there? They're leaving the angels behind. And like you said, I felt like living in Bessemer I felt like I was nestled. It's not all of Bessemer; it's only pockets. But I felt like I was nestled in between some old gangsters and some new gangsters. And when they started messing with me, they were willing to be unlawful. And here I couldn't get the cops to arrest him or get their name or investigate or do anything. And I felt like if I would have defended myself, they would have been more likely to throw me in jail for some assault charges because, I would have admitted that I fought some people that was damaging my property or attacking me or something. But because I admit to it and then they're not around, eventually you would have to become like them. You'd have to, a good man in a world of evil would perish unless you learn to fight and, fight for yourself. And so I think it's either I want to live in a society where I have cops that are doing their jobs and they go after the criminals and the people that are, harming others. Or B, I live in a society where I'm allowed to defend myself. I'm allowed to stand up for myself. I'm going to stand up for my home, my family, my property, and that's okay. Like, I won't get in trouble for that. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it just depends, and it's just not just Bessemer, it's any part of Pueblo. Anything can happen at any time.
Right.
It's literally all you can do nowadays is just keep your nose out of other people's business and just be on your guard.
Be prepared. Don't be scared. Be prepared.
Yeah, that's how it really is, but I see stuff all the time that, like I said before, and I'll say it forever, we, as a Pueblo community, it doesn't matter what you change or what you don't change. The point of it is we're home of the Colorado State Fair. We're home of the Chili Fest. We have some of the best, we're known for some of the best green chili, if not the best, in the United States. If you look back in 10 years, you're not going to want to say, oh, this changed. The most important part is, if we don't tackle some of these problems now, like what are our youth doing running the streets at 12 o'clock at night?
Right.
Why are there so many homeless without a homeless shelter? In 10 years from now, even 5 years from now, what do you think what do you think is going to happen? The statistics, they're just going to raise up. We're going to double or triple the amount of homeless. Then what's going to happen is we're going to turn out to a problem where we have literally nothing we can do because we didn't take the time now to make that change and figure out what to do for these people.
I think, unfortunately, Pueblo City has to be the adults. Pueblo West is kind of a libertarian's wet dream, and so I think that they don't mind kind of pushing homeless on down the way. But since we're kind of the biggest city around this area, we're gonna have to be the adults. We're gonna have to take care of the. I actually heard this one story, and I hope it's not true, but it came from a pretty Michael Stapleton. Pretty I trust that this was good information. But there was Pueblo West, a private company, was going to give 10 small houses, tiny homes, to Pueblo City to help with the homeless population, but the city of Pueblo, the government, said no to it because they didn't want to encourage those kinds of people. So this isn't intentional. This isn't like negligent. This isn't they forgot to build a homeless shelter, but this has been policy to not build a homeless shelter, to not take care of, not to do anything about it except for, I guess, fascism. Just go, tear up their tents and get the cops on them and try to scare them off. But that seems to be the only policy that I see. And so that's, I don't know what you think about that, but that burned me up when I heard about that. I want to... Yeah.
Here's the thing about it is you can look at it two different ways. There are people out there that care about people, and there's people that don't. I mean, if you pass by a homeless person on the street, you give two shits, and that could be a homeless veteran sitting there, or anybody really. I mean, about 20-30% of all homeless in Pueblo are kids.
Yeah.
Because when you think about that, I mean, you have to do something. There's not a
right.
if and but about it. There's
right.
no.
Right.
This is the problem. When somebody sees somebody with a bandana around their neck and they call it a flag, and they're in a gang. There's some people out there that say all gang members are bad. All they do is kill people and go around shooting people on the east side and different places in Pueblo.
Yeah.
That's not true. If people say that, it's not true. There are people that are approached by gangs that are 12, 13 years old that already have mental health problems, that doesn't have anybody to rely on, no family members, no father, no mother. And that's their outreach. That's all they have. It's a person they have there to support them and that they know has their back. It's the same thing with homeless people. People don't give the homeless people sometimes because they say, I've already gave that person before. You know what? They've been on that corner for 2 years now. They must be buying drugs with that money or buying alcohol, and they don't give two shits about finding a job and changing their life around. But how can you say that when there's people out there that really need our help? And when you see it on the news every couple months, especially in the wintertime, where, a homeless person's body, unidentified, was found dead by a park or by the river or whatever what, I mean, I can't think of any other way to say it, but it's just a loss of compassion because we have the opportunities right now. There are buildings and structures and infrastructures in Pueblo where we can find a unified place where homeless people are accepted. Where if we see one on the streets, we can say, hey, do you know about this place over here? To kind of get them in one general area. I mean, we can do anything. We have to do something.
I got a couple quick questions here. I feel you, and I'm on board with everything that you're saying. I got 2 minutes, 30-minute tape or whatever. So,
you're fine.
Murder, rape, stealing, violence. Is there anything worse than those 4 crimes?
Murder, rape, what was the other one?
Violence, stealing, rape, murder.
Let's see, is there anyone worse?
You can take a minute, or you can take some time to think about it.
The only thing I could think of was just loss of compassion.
Well, I was thinking like slavery or maybe betrayal, but those are kind of more senses. Oppression, I think that's something, but specifically it seems like murder is the worst. Rape, stealing, violence, these are... When you were talking about the gang members, I agree that a lot of people are getting sucked up into it. But Al Capone, Black Panther Party, they had breakfast programs, so they actually did a lot of good for the community. But I feel like if your gang members are going around harming people and you're not stopping them, then you're kind of responsible for them just as much as the cops are. So I think the cops need to have a check on themselves, because if they're going around harming people and nobody points out their wrongdoing, well, the gangs, they're just emulating, I think the cops have to set the example. And so
Right. And this is a place, Pueblo is a place where, I'll bring up an example I just saw the other day on Facebook. A lot of crap load of people paid money to go to that fireworks show. It was canceled. And from what I saw on Facebook, none of the money was given back. And I saw a comment on Facebook that, the second comment that anybody in Pueblo posted up there, snitches get stitches.
Right.
And I was like,
Well, I'm mixed on it. I'm actually mixed on that. I'm mixed on it because what do you think about the war on drugs? There's this like if let's assume, okay, there's a small businessman who they deal drugs, but they're peaceful. So I feel like that's why I'm asking about the murder, rape, stealing, violence. So drugs, I have a right to do, with my own body what I want to do with it. So let's say it's small business, they're peaceful, they don't do nothing, but they get robbed. And they get, their stash taken from them. Well, they can't really do nothing about it because it's illegal, so they have no recourse. But clearly they weren't the criminals. The people who stole the stuff from them would be the criminals, I would think, because stealing is...
Right, yeah.
And then I think the war on drugs also adds like a criminal element to the whole thing, so snitches get stitches but then the other day, I don't know, I'm a pothead myself. I was driving around, and before, when it was illegal, I hated the cops. Even when I didn't have, if I wasn't riding dirty, I hated them. I hated them. But I drove around today, the other day, 2 days ago or so, and I just saw one drive by, and I was like, now that marijuana is legal, I kind of appreciate them being around.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in the end, if something tragic is going on, or you need the police officer's help, I mean, the normal person is still going to call 911. It doesn't matter if they were bashing cops, 2 days before that.